Hey guys, it's JK Wargames, and today we're going to do a review of Tank Duel Enemy in the Crosshairs. Been waiting a long time for this one, so I'm pretty excited about it. A big thanks to GMT Games for sending this out to the channel for review. Sorry for the lack of updates. I've just moved house, so JK Wargames is in a new location. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay guys, what do you get inside the box then? So you get your rules of play, full colour booklet, very easy to understand, kind of the same layout as last 100 yards. So that's your rules of play. You get a fantastic playbook. I love that image, that panther, amazing. This just gives you examples, and this has got all your scenarios in, and there's some historical scenarios included as well. So that's your playbook. It goes through a whole game of how it's played. And there's additional rules in here for infantry as well, and solitaire play. So we get our cards. So the main cards you'll be using are the battle cards. These are fantastic quality. As you can see, this is a woods card, and you get command cards, you get fire cards, move cards, flank cards. So we won't go into how they work yet, I'll show you that in a bit. But you get 100 battle cards. You work through a 100 card deck, which sounds a lot, but you burn through the cards very quickly. So that's the battle cards. We then get broken and on fire cards. So if your tank is on fire, you have to put one of these on your dash, or if your morale is broken, you have to put one of those down. So you get a load of those. You get a damage card deck. So you pull one of these, and this will tell you how much damage, what damage has happened, whether it's heavy or light, and also these icons on the right hand side are used to track morale. Then you get scenario cards. So these cards are used for certain scenarios, and really nice quality cards these are. Then we get our solitaire cards. So these are used if you're going to play the game solo. You get a load of those, and you get these terrain cards, which are used if you are playing certain scenarios. So if you're playing a scenario that tells you to include hill cards, you're going to use those cards there. We then get our infantry. Use these if you're using infantry rules. And we have weapons for the infantry as well. Use these charts to determine what weapons are used to attack the tanks. And then you get 2 sheets of tokens, and I've put them all into here. So you get your crew, victory points, spotted tokens, range tokens, special ammo tokens. There's loads there, there's hundreds. Then you get your player aids. You get a load of these. So these are really handy, double-sided, and you get the solo player aid as well. So that is, well, no, that's not everything, nearly. Then you get your tanks. Now these are the boards. So here we've got a Panzer IV. So you can see that you put your tokens for the driver, assistant driver, gunner, loader, and commander. On the right hand side is your range and what you need to hit number. This is your box for if you're spotted, and each time a tank moves, you're going to move down in range or move back up in range. These numbers here track your victory points, and this here is where you put any movement cards or terrain cards. So these are double-sided. So on the other side we have a Stug, and you get tons of these. There's all different types, so you get your Russian tanks as well. So what I'll do, guys, is I'll set a little scenario up and we'll go through a turn and see how the game is played. Okay guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how the game plays. So I'm not going to play through a full turn, I'm just going to show you how movement works and how shooting works in the game. So this is your tank, your dash for your tank. So you can see you've got the tank, you've got the crew with the driver, assistant driver, gunner, loader and commander. Now through the game, these guys will take damage and be wounded, or they will be killed in action. On the left hand side, you've got victory points. This is how you win in different scenarios. And you can see here it says move. So that means that this tank can play a move 6 card or lower, and it can play a fire 8 card or lower. So you wouldn't be able to play a fire 9 card because it's too high. Here you can see you get your victory points for the vehicle, commander, gunner and other crew. On the right hand side, this is how you work out shooting. This is your spotted box, and then up here is your range, and this is how movement is done. So at the start of a game, players draw their hand size. Now your hand size is 4 cards plus 2 for each tank you control. So just for this example, I've got 4 for the tank and 2, which makes 6. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards here. So the first thing that happens is players bid for initiative. So the lowest number will go first. But what you'll find is that the lower number cards are the better cards. So it's a choice of, do I want to waste this good card going first, or do I want to bide my time? So for instance, we could play this leadership card and it's a 2, and we would stand a very good chance of going first, but it depends what our opponent does. So you bid for initiative, you turn over the initiative cards, whoever has the lowest goes first, and then you go in order. So let's say I got the initiative. I now am going to go into the tank phase. Now at the beginning of the tank phase is an administration step, but for the first turn that is not going to be used. We then go into the action step. Now I can either fire, or I can move, or I can play field actions. So what we're going to do is we're going to move. Now I can play up to 2 move cards and a terrain card and a flank card. So we're going to play this move 4 card because it's lower than our 6, so we're fine. And this says I can move up to 200 meters. If I was flanked, I can pull a battle card to remove 1 flank. But then at the bottom here it says I can play 2 move cards instead and move up to 400 meters. So if I played just 1 card, my tank would move from 800 to 600. That's 200 meters. But we're going to play another move card, a move 5, to move another 200. So we move into the 400. Then, as my third card, I can play a terrain card, and I'm going to play the woods card. So this goes into our box here. Now, on these normal movement cards, you can see at the bottom in red, I'm spotted, and that happens automatically. But because I've gone into the woods, we have a conceal 30. Now, what happens is I pull a battle card from the deck. If it's 30 or lower, we are not spotted. So I'll just do that now. We pulled a 35, so that is over 30, we are spotted. So the Russian tank over here spots us, and we take a number 2 because we are a tank 2, and that goes in his spot box, which is the target there. So he now has us spotted. So that's how movement works, pretty simple. Now, the reason I've gone into the woods is because it gives me cover as well. So you can see cover 10 it gives me, and hold down 10. So let's say that is basically how movement works. It's pretty simple. Now you can play a movement card and not move in range. So you can play your movement card to play a terrain card. So that is another thing you can do. So let's have a look at firing. So let's say we have tank 2, which is the Russian tank over there as well. We have him spotted. and we've done initiative, we got the initiative again. We now want to fire at the tank. Now we have to have that tank spotted. So how we do that is when he moves, if he doesn't get concealment, we spot him. But we can also, instead of moving or firing, we can take we can take an action by pulling a card, and if it has a set of binoculars, we would spot that tank. But we've got him spotted. So I look at my hand of cards and I have a fire 2 card and I'm going to play it. So it says here, target a spotted enemy tank and initiate a fire action. And we also get a +5 to hit. So I declare I'm firing at the Russian tank. Then what happens is we work out the range. But before we do that, if you have a leadership card, you can play this alongside your fire card. So here you can see at the bottom, I can add +20 to hit when played with a fire card. So I'm going to do that. The other thing you can do when firing, but we don't have it, is if you had another fire card, you can play 2 fire cards and you get to decide where the damage is inflicted if you penetrate the enemy tank. So we've done that, we now need to work out the range. So we are at 400 and our enemy tank is at, let's say he's at 600. So what we do is we add the 400 to the 600 and that's how we get our range. So adding those together gives us 1,000. Now if we look down on the card here, 1,000, at that range we need to pull a 72 or less to hit, but it's modified. So we get a -5 for the Russian tank. Each tank, there's up in the corner here, -5. So we take 5 off 72. We then add 5 back because our fire card lets us add 5 to it. We then add 20 to that because we played a leadership card. But we then have to minus cover. And let's say the Russian tank is in woods. So we have to take away 10 because he has cover in the woods. Okay, so that leaves us at 82. So we pull a battle card from the deck and we need an 82 or less to hit the tank. We pull the card, it's a 21, so that is a hit. If it was over 82, it would be a miss. So we've hit the tank. Brilliant. Now, we have to determine the hit location on the tank. Now, if we had played 2 fire cards, we could decide this, but we haven't played 2 fire cards. So we pull another card from the deck and we look at this white number with the target. It's a 2. So a 2 means we have targeted his hull. Then what we need to do is look at the penetration values. So 1,000, we have 9, and his armor on his hull is a 9, so they equal. Now if you equal or go over, you have penetrated the tank, but we still have to pull another card. So we pull this card and you can see it's a -3. So you'd -3 off that 9 and that would be under his armor, so we have not penetrated the tank and that would be a miss. But let's say we pull this card, it's a +4. So you add +4 to your 9, you have definitely penetrated the tank. And also, if it's in red, like this, that means you cause heavy damage. If it was in white, like that, this means you would cause light damage. So we have caused heavy damage. Now, this is where you pull a damage card. So we pull a damage card. The first thing we do is look at this critical hit number. Now if they match, that means that it's a critical hit. They don't match, so it's not a critical hit. So we go down to the hull and we look at heavy damage, catastrophic hit. In other words, the Russian T-34 it has exploded, the crew are dead, you will gain 3 victory points for the vehicle, 5 points for the commander, and 2 points for each other crew member. So let's say we pulled a different damage card and the critical hit does not match, but we go to hull and we look at heavy damage and we can see loader in capital letters. This means that he is killed. So the loader of the T-34 is killed and you would secure 2 victory points on your track. We then look at gunner. Now, because it's not in capital letters, this means the gunner is wounded. So you flip the gunner's counter, he's wounded. We then have explosion and fire, and they're not in capital letters, which means we have to check. If they were in capital letters, it would happen automatically. So what we do to check for an explosion, is we pull a battle card. If there's an explosion icon on it, the tank has exploded. So we pull a battle card and boom, there's an explosion icon. This means the T-34 has exploded. Now, because the tank has exploded, we don't check for a fire. There's no point, the tank's exploded. But what we do have to do is, for each remaining crew member, make an escape attempt. So, how we do that? So the escape attempt, we pull a battle card, and if there is an explosion icon, that crew member will be killed. If a crew member is already wounded, he has to pull 2 battle cards because he stands more chance of being killed. So, for instance, we would pull one for our commander. There is not an explosion, so he's fine. We then pull one for our loader. He's fine. We'd pull one for the assistant driver. Now there's an icon there, explosion icon. So our assistant driver has been killed and we would gain another 2 points. We would then check for our driver and he is fine. So pretty simple, but a nice little effective way of checking if the crew escapes. So what about if there was a fire? So let's say we'd done the explosion check, there wasn't an explosion icon. We would then check for fire. So we pull a battle card. If there's a fire icon, which there is, the tank is on fire. So how do we resolve this? So when a tank catches fire, it gains one of these cards, an on fire card. You can see it says check during the administration phase and it's -1 from the hand size. So we would put that on the initiative card of the T-34, like so. So there's certain ways of a crew trying to put out a fire on a tank. Okay, so in the administration step, a tank that is on fire has to perform a fire check. Now, you can decide for the crew to bail out and leave the tank and it's just abandoned, and the other player that just caused the tank to be on fire would just gain points for the tank, not the crew. But it's a choice, so you can either do that and then come back with a fresh tank, or you can try and put out the fire. How you do that is, in your hand of cards, if you have 4 extinguisher icons, then you can put out the fire. So for instance, if I had a hand here, I have 1, 2, 3. I only have 3, so I wouldn't be able to put the fire out in my turn. So, but let's say we had 4. So we got 4, but you're having to discard 4 of your cards from your hand just to put out that fire. So you can either do that, if you've got 4 icons, fire extinguishers, in the administration step, you can put out the fire. Now, if you can't produce 4 fire extinguisher icons, or you choose not to discard your cards, you have to do a fire check. So you pull a battle card. If there's a fire icon, which there is on this one, the fire grows out of control and the active tank crew must escape. So again, you do an escape check. If the card has a fire extinguisher icon, so let's find one, like this, then the fire is put out and the tank is fine. Otherwise, there is no effect. So if we pulled a card that has no extinguisher and no fire, like this, there's no effect. The tank remains on fire. And in that case, when you get into your tank phase, you can then attempt to put out the fire. So if you are unable to put out the fire in the administration step, when you get to your tank action step, if you have 3 fire extinguishers in your hand, then you can put out the fire. And this is instead of doing a tank action. So if you get to this step, your tank cannot perform an action, it's on fire, the crew are panicking. So if you can get 3 fire extinguishers, 1, 2, 3, the fire would be put out, you'd remove this card, and the tank is ready for the next turn. Okay, so after a fire check or damage caused to a tank, the crew have to check their morale. So how we do that is we use the damage card that was pulled, or you can pull a new one, and you look at the right hand side, these icons here, and you look in the rule book at these icons, and this is where your crew are. So we have a standard crew for this tank. So the Russian tank that took damage has an elite crew, as you can see on their token. So we look at the damage card, we're looking for 3 arrows as an elite crew, and you can see it's got a green tick, so that means they are fine, they passed their morale check. Now if they had a red cross in it, they would fail their morale and they would receive a broken card, one of these. And again, check during the administration phase, -1 from hand size, so that'd be placed in their box. When we get to the administration phase, they have to do another morale check. So when we get back to the administration step, the broken tank can reveal 4 icons from their hand of the damage that was caused to them. So if it was a fire that caused them to be broken, if they can show 4 fire icons, they're not broken and the crew rally. Now I'm assuming that because it says here in the rulebook, it says to automatically remove a broken condition from the crew, the active player may reveal and discard battle cards from their hand showing 4 OIs. If the active player cannot discard 4 OIs or chooses not to, they must perform a morale check. So again, let's say we couldn't do that, we perform another morale check. We pull a damage card, we look at the side. If there's a tick, then they pass. If there's an X, so this is their second morale in their administration. If there's an X, the crew bail out and the tank is abandoned, and again the other side would receive victory points. So that's about it. There are other things like buttoning up or having an open hatch, but this video would be far too long. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think it's a brilliant game, probably one of my favourite GMT games. There's loads of scenarios, and it's fun. I'm going to try the infantry rules as well. That adds another depth to it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.